guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are brand new here, my name is Kylie and I am a young person living with narcolepsy and spreading awareness about the subject, as well as showing that you can still live a fulfilling life if you have a sleep disorder. If you don't know what narcolepsy is, head on over to my Narcolepsy 101 video where I break it down for you. I'm very excited to share with you the first of the new series I am starting called Your Narcoleptic Stories. This series is all about spreading awareness as well as making people feel related to. These stories are sent to me with permission for me to read them anonymously to you. And even if you're somebody that doesn't have narcolepsy or has no interest in the topic of narcolepsy, if nothing else, it could be entertainment for you. Just so you know, I do not read these stories before I sit down in front of the camera like I am now to read them to you. The purpose of me doing that is so that I capture my genuine reaction and response to the story I've received. Due to the fact that I am not a professional at making YouTube videos, I am still in the very early stages of learning, as well as the fact that I am in my final 3 weeks of my pregnancy, and I am feeling so big and uncomfortable everywhere I sit. My setup is a little funky, and it's causing me to have to look this way to read. So I apologize in advance if that is annoying to see me kind of to the side. I tried to get the laptop as close to my camera as possible, but unfortunately, we're just making do with what we got. I'm so excited to finally start this series. This is something that I wanted to do right away, but I felt the need to create all of my general breakdown videos about narcolepsy first, to share my story, and now I can share other people's stories. I also started the series Pregnant with Narcolepsy, which you can follow the link here to check that out. Time to get into my first story. Hi there, not sure what kind of novel you're after, but it will likely be a novel. I'll preface with the fact that I am a twin. Being a twin comes with comparison really early in life, whether we mean to or not. When I was 5, I went into the hospital with my twin sister to have my tonsils and adenoids removed. I remember that day because I hate needles, and I fought the nurse hard. I remember falling asleep after all the tears and stress. Suddenly, I remember waking up and looking back and seeing a big murky doorway, and then to the side, my mother. I sat up and asked where I was, and my mom, she said, "Mom, how cute." And my mom's face was pure shock. She says, "Honey, you're meant to be asleep. Shh, go back to sleep," as she stroked my face, trying to hold in her concern. I felt like I had to try really hard to fall back asleep because maybe I'd get in trouble for being awake. Following this, I got very ill with glandular fever I picked up from the hospital stay. This left me and my dad in bed with room service from Mom for about 2 weeks. Mom and Dad said I was never quite the same after that. I put on a lot of weight through my childhood, which was very noticeable with the whole comparison thing. I also started sleeping much more. I'd be in the car for 2 seconds and I'd be out. Kind of became a family joke, really. I'd fall asleep on the toilet, on the couch, at school, on the floor after school. I got banned from locking the bathroom door when I'd have a bath because I almost drowned in bath water one time. That's scary. Every night after dinner, I'd play a little game where I'd sneak under the table to try to stealthily tie my dad's work shoes together. It took every muscle to ensure I wasn't caught. I never succeeded. I'd soon wake up on the floor drooling. These increased sleep episodes went on through the years, and I was sent to a good hospital for around 3 sleep studies, but it always came back inconclusive. This was in the 90s, so it was relatively new. Over the years, we kind of had to accept that I just had this sleep thing, and we all sort of went on with our lives. One thing was different, though. When I would go to bed at night, I would see things. I remember the first hallucination I ever had. I was around 5 or 6 and I was sleeping in my shared room with my sister under a beautiful embroidered satin quilt cover my nan got us. I was drifting off when I caught the moonlight on the very lip of the quilt. I saw a bit of cotton moving. They were tiny needle people going about their tiny needle lives in the bright moonlight of my bedroom. I saw wheelbarrows and many tiny people walking in a line upon the horizon of my neck. Suddenly, I felt this dark wave of fear. What if the tiny people in their tiny needle village know I can see them? What if they dive off the tiny line and start needling my face? I'm gonna stop here for a second and just say that I have had hallucinations. Mine was just about my dog that I saw, but really he was dead in real life. And I'm telling you, it was as clear and as real as me seeing this blanket here or this curtain here. So I can only imagine how scary this probably was, even though it sounds so crazy and out there. She says, I froze still, stiff. My body ached and I stuttered for breath until I fell asleep. I didn't tell anyone in case the tiny people heard me. Aw. I'm not laughing at her. I'm laughing because it's like kind of cute because she was like 5 or 6. But it's also like scary. Even if that happened now, it would just be scary that you can see something, but like, how is this happening? You know what I mean? She says, I slept tense after that. Visions of spiders on the wall bigger than my face. Now that would not be okay with me. Eventually, my parents moved me to my own room at the back of the house. Boy, did my dreams take off then. Every night it was something new. A lady, a silhouette, a she Casper the Ghost with red hair and a mole, smoking a cigarette. She moved my curtains and coughed, exclaiming, You're going to die one day, kid. And then she disappeared. A witch at the end of my bed manifested as I grew stiff and tried to drag me off the end. Wow. That is not only scary, but I love the way you're telling this story. I just want to mention that because I am someone who appreciates detail. With each haunting, I would wait 5 minutes and make the leap of my life down the hall as fast as I can. I'd kneel at my father's side of the bed and tell him what I saw, begging him to let me sleep in there. Aww. I'd end up falling asleep kneeling where I'd wake and move to the quilt curled up on the floor, and I'd sleep until morning where I'd hear my mom say, Bob, she's done it again. That's like so cute, and like you're so innocent you don't realize that this is way more intense than what normal kids dream of and nightmares that they have. What she's talking about is not just a dream, like she's fully hallucinating, and it's scary. And the fact that you had this going on at so young, I mean, it could have been something that started when you were 2 years old, so you've been dealing with it for 4 to 8 years or however many years have gone by. And the longer you go without being treated for your narcolepsy and the symptoms that come with it, the stronger they become. So I can only imagine where this is going to go. Let's continue. Mom and Dad never believed a word I said. They always put it down to anxiety of being so far down the hall. During this time, I'd see the tooth fairy, except she was green and she was trying to get me. Oh my gosh. You poor thing. I just want to go back in time and like hug the little you and say like, it was real and I believe you. But let me continue. She says, Santa slapped me in the face because I wasn't asleep on Christmas Eve, and the Easter Bunny was a series of earthquakes I wasn't ready to deal with. Of course, being a kid, you'd go to school and other kids would claim they saw one of these, and I'd light up and excitingly say, so did I. Only I'd be met with, no you didn't, you're lying. But I wasn't lying. I did see them. Why was I a liar? I quickly stopped telling people what I saw and started getting really good at spotting a liar because I knew I wasn't one. Wow, that's interesting perspective actually, because being so little, and no matter what age you are and whether you have narcolepsy or not, you know when you're not lying, and you know how it feels when like other people straight up tell you you are lying when you know you're not. So I can only imagine. She says, I had a bit of a tough relationship with one of my parents as a kid, and I was in all cases overweight and deemed a liar. So I spent my day and energy trying to escape this. I became funny. I used my naps as a superpower when I was sent to my room, and life went on. I sort of told myself I was special. I was born at 3:33 p.m. during a flood, and I died at birth. We all did for a bit there. My life, in my mind, was something spooky and special, and I sort of accepted that I was gifted, and even though what I saw was bone-shakingly terrifying, I went through it with some sort of imagination. I suppose children have coping mechanisms, so I think I created this story, but I also remember just knowing it. In my dreams I have, still to this day, an identity. In my dream memory, I had a past. I was the purest form of pure. With that, naturally the worst evil would want to take you for their own. In this memory, I was destroyed by evil, but they couldn't destroy this white ball of light in my chest. This white light is how I survived in my dream world and in waking life. This white ball of light is how they find me in my dream world, but they can never destroy me again. Just torture, if you will. This memory, whether I made it up or not, has echoed through my nature in waking life and made me become an extremely aware person. I have a huge heart and I know where it's needed. Wow. I love how detailed this is. For people that don't have narcolepsy, they're probably like, wow, this might sound a little crazy. And even as someone with narcolepsy, yeah, it sounds crazy, but I get it. Especially like, I tell people all the time, my dreams are so vivid. I could literally paint you what I saw. I could tell you what it smelled like. I can tell you the tiniest details that you're like, what the heck? So the fact that you're remembering all these little details, even from being a kid, like I can relate to that. I remember dreams from myself when I was a child, and there are memories that I have that I think that I made up, or did that even really happen? But looking back, maybe I actually had onset of symptoms way before 18 and didn't know it. And that's kind of an interesting thought I've gathered just since reading your story. But let's continue. She says, the characters turned into demons as years went by and I started facing some really dark figures. Literally. I'm sure you've heard of the whole Hat Man thing. Well, almost every night he'd climb up on top of me, and I don't really need to tell you the rest. Auditory, growling, touch, vision, paralysis, and a really accurate smell. I can only describe this as like off cheese, what I'd imagine burning skin or hair to smell like, and somehow honeybee hives on a farm. It's not nice. It smells like evil. Life went on, my parents separated, and I moved in with just my mom. I was a teenager with secrets in real life, and the ones I kept of my night terror. I was put on sleeping relaxants by a new doctor. One night I hallucinated a giant rat leapt from under my pillow and stared, clawing my face. I was screaming. I felt it. So I ran to my mother's room clutching my face. Mom, there's a giant rat clawing my face. As I was uttering the words, I was coming out of the hallucination, so I felt immediate shame. I was met with, whatever drugs you're on, get off them. I was 17. I wasn't on drugs, Mom. The part where you say that you were coming out of the hallucination, so you immediately felt shame, I can relate to that because even in my wake life, when it comes to like automatic behavior, which those of you who don't know what that is, check out my symptoms video. I explain exactly what that is. You're almost like asleep, but like still functioning as you're conscious. And whenever I would like come out of that and go back into normal, like I'm fully awake, I felt the same way. You feel it, like it's literally like you're going through a tunnel, like you're back into real life. Okay, cool. But like, you can almost like see people looking at you like, what the... She says, a trip to my childhood doctor was prescribed. It was my childhood doctor's daughter, Katrina. We went to get a new script for sleep relaxants when we were met with concern as I was a bit young. She looked at us and said, I thought you got diagnosed with something years ago. Mom and I were confused. No, said Mom. Katrina and I went to the old manila folder her mother created, and came back to tell us that I'd been diagnosed with narcolepsy at age 7. Mom and I were so confused and claimed no, we were never given results. Turned out, after some inquiries, that my sleep doctor had a nervous breakdown at just the wrong time and never released my results. I was about to sit my trial, HSC, in year 11, so the doctor pulled some very nice strings and got me a sleep study 2 weeks later. What do you know? 4 out of 4, she was right. Wow. I cannot believe that they had the answer and you never got the results. That's awful. That should not be okay. Like, someone in that office should have called you and said, hey, these are your results. The doctor's not in anymore or whatever. But that's crazy because your life could have been improved from that point on. But here you are 10 years later dealing with this still. I'm sorry that that happened to you, but let's continue. She says, the man in the white lab coat, neurologist, called us into his office to discuss things further. All I remember from that day was him asking me 2 questions. Do you sometimes fall over or collapse when you feel intense emotion? Yes, I exclaimed, the funny feeling as we would call it as kids. Do you sometimes see things that aren't there upon sleep onset, but even though they can't be there, they are real to you? She says, ... pause, ... Why are you asking me that? I whispered. Because if you do, they are real to you and you did see them. I stood up in my chair suddenly. I turned to my parents and said loudly, see, that redhead lady smoking was there. The witch, the man in the walls, all of it. It was there. I sort of blanked after that. I wasn't a liar. I had narcolepsy type 1. That part kind of gave me a little bit of goosebumps in the best way because, yes, girl, you knew you weren't lying. You knew how you felt, and nobody is in your shoes, and that's the worst part. You're like, I know I look fine, but I'm not. I am telling you from the inside, I am not okay. So I wish I was a fly on that wall to see their reaction of like, oh my gosh, maybe she's not crazy. Or, oh my gosh, she was telling the truth. So let's see what happened next. Moving forward, I was medicated. Ritalin, 0.5, twice a day. My next struggle I didn't realize I was set head first for, discovering time. I had many nervous breakdowns. I didn't understand what to do with time. Mom would come home one day and I'd cook dinner, sewed a bag, painted 2 paintings, cleaned the house, and created a wooden bag rack for said bags. I was trembling with migraine and anxiety. Mom, I yelled, shaking. What do you do with time? What do people do? I don't know what to do right now. Help me. We changed my meds. I may pronounce this medication wrong, but it says, I've been on Medovigil for 10 years. I still don't understand time. I still see demons. I met my partner. He loves me for all of me, especially my mind. I still see demons from time to time. I still have chronic nightmares, and I still look like I haven't slept in 4 weeks, 1 minute, and normal the next. Not to undervalue all those years following my diagnosis and being medicated, but from then on, it's been a slow-moving cathedral of lessons. I will say that thanks to the narcolepsy, my heart is very clear. My soul is white, and I know who I am, and I love her. I love that for you. I don't feel like my experience was very, profound like that, but it did help me in certain ways of my life, as far as, not seeing things black and white and seeing all the shades of gray in between. So I think that's kind of comparable. I now have a 12-month-old, Etta. I dreamt up her name 2 years before I had her, although in that dream she had a full set of teeth. Pregnancy was the first time in my whole life I've felt normal. No meds. I re-met myself. I cared more. I had less patience, but that was a good thing as I'd been far too relaxed for far too long. The meds. She says, the meds, I know why it is. She says, I had a good 13 months med-free, a fantastic and quick natural first birth. 3 months later, I was falling asleep in seconds, so I got back on my meds. I still have less patience, but all the patience in the world for my little baby. Narcolepsy is me. It's part of my whole entire journey. It's in my bones and even further inside some childhood identity. I am a white ball of light that just gets sleepy sometimes, but aren't we all? Sorry for the spelling, it's late. LOL. X. When I say what a great story, I don't mean because it's just entertainment, because I feel you on levels that not everyone's gonna feel you on. But the way you told that story was great. I'm sorry overall that you had parents that didn't believe you from the get-go. Honestly, it's kind of one of those things where on one hand you can't really blame them because that's not something that people typically deal with in children. Usually when they say they see something, it's usually just a bad dream or their little childish imaginations. So the fact that you were dealing with something that both you and they have never dealt with or heard of, it makes sense why they were naive and they didn't believe you. But I am sorry that you had to deal with so many years of that and just kind of accept that it was like the joke of the family, that you just had this weird thing and all of that. I love the moment where you are in the doctor's office and he literally asks you the question that proves, yeah, I'm not crazy and this all makes sense now. That's awesome. I know with medication, it's different for everyone. And like you said, that started in the 90s. So I don't know how long you've been on the second medication. I do want to say that even though I do not know you personally as like a narcolepsy friend, I would say if you feel like you're still not at 100%, which we probably will never be, let's be honest. But there are other medications out there, especially probably since you started on the one you're on. So maybe think about talking to your neurologist and seeing if, hey, maybe we should try something new, unless you're comfortable where you're at. Either way, do you, girl. Just trust your intuition, whatever feels right for you. I also think it's sweet that your baby made such a big difference in your life, as far as you felt like the most patient and you felt good and you feel like you kind of re-met yourself during your pregnancy, especially the fact that you were without your medication during that time. That's actually really shocking to me because I feel like if I didn't take my medication while pregnant, which I am right now, still pregnant, I'm 37 weeks right now, and I decided to continue my medication, I feel like it would have been the opposite for me, just from my experience, if I were to have stopped that. So kudos to you, girl, and I'm so happy that it worked out for you. I also love that you found someone that loves you for who you are. That's amazing. I also want to mention that the person who sent me this story sent me some artwork that they painted, and the paintings are really good. In fact, she had sent me a follow-up email to that and said, here's some pretty unfinished art I did over the years that kind of portrays some of my experiences, or at least represents what I was dealing with. Which those of you who know me know that I'm a very creative person and I love detail and I love painting myself and artistic interpretation. So the fact that she sent me this is amazing. I'm going to share with you some of her paintings in just a moment, but before I do, I just want to say thank you so much for sending me this story and sharing that with us. It's not only going to help raise awareness about narcolepsy, but it's going to help others feel related too. And for those of you who don't have narcolepsy, it's some entertainment, right? If you or someone you know has narcolepsy and you'd like to share any story relating to that subject, please send it to my email. It's in the description below, as well as in the About section of my channel. If you liked this video, I would appreciate it if you would consider subscribing to my channel, as well as liking this video. Both of those things help towards my mission of raising awareness about narcolepsy and helping others feel related too. Don't forget, I am going to share with you her artwork, but I want to say thank you so much for taking the time of day to watch my video, and I will see you in the next one.